Minnesota is known for a lot of neat things.
It's also known for some sad things, too.
Hi, thank you for joining us for episode 113 of Around the World with Joshua and Alyssa. Today, we're going to show you something in Minnesota that isn't so great. And Minnesota became well known for the wrong reasons a couple years ago. And we're going to show you today something that happened, well, less than half an hour away from where we live. And that was the situation with George Floyd and his death and the subsequent, well, destruction of our city. So we went and we saw the place where George Floyd died about 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half after it happened. We went right to the spot, Cup Foods. This is the location of where everything started, and the roads had been completely blocked off, and this was the scene. Here is a look at the full intersection. As you can see, nobody can drive through. They had placed all sorts of things in the middle of the road in a circle. Eventually, that area got filled in with dirt right on top of the asphalt, and flowers were planted in the dirt. All sorts of things happened. So these are just pictures of what it looked like less than 2 weeks afterward. We have been there multiple times since then, most recently about a month ago, and it looks different, but you can still see that it's obviously the place where everything happened. And so yeah, this is just what it looked like right after. On the side of Cup Foods, this mural was painted, and all these flowers and things were placed there. It was a lot. It was just amazing what happened there. But then you go a few miles away, and you can see the places that were in the news for the riots and the fires and the destruction, the looting. We decided to go there and see what it looked like, because we had seen the things on the news, we saw the pictures, but we wanted to see it up close and in person. And so this is the Wendy's sign. Wendy's was right in front of Aldi, which was right across the street from Target, and Target was in the news for having been heavily looted. This is what Wendy's looked like. Basically gone, and volunteers had come by to help clean up the mess. So now everything is in trash bags. You can see off in the left-hand corner are shovels and brooms and buckets from all the volunteers cleaning up. Right across the street here was this building that had rocks thrown through several of the windows, and they were boarded up, and people still vandalized even the wood there. This was AutoZone right in front of Wendy's, and it was completely burned to the ground. You can see pictures of it online, all up in flames. And when we got there, they were just demolishing the remnants and trying to clean it up. Here's another picture of that building that had the rocks thrown through it. There had been attempts to burn it, but it's brick, so not much of it can burn, but it was a mess. Across the street from there was this scene. This whole row of businesses completely burned out. This was a basement and then a first level. And when we went there a month ago, this whole area is now all filled in and just grass. There's no buildings there at all. So you could hardly tell what used to be there if you didn't see it already. A couple blocks away, this is the Arby's. It also was completely burned to the ground and destroyed. This is an apartment complex that was being constructed when the rioters came over and burned it. And so when we came and saw it here, it was already blocked off because it was being constructed, but now they're tearing it down so that they can reconstruct it. And now it's actually quite nice. They built it back up, and that's a beautiful apartment complex. But just a couple years ago, it was ugly. And it was really sad to walk through the streets and to think just what had happened and how people reacted. And, really no one was in the right. And you can defend something and you can say, well, this is what we're going to do because someone did something that was wrong. But doing something else that is wrong doesn't make anything right. And so we've got to see that firsthand here, basically in our hometown, of what happens when people get angry and let their sin nature take control.
The weekend that all this happened, we bought a car, and we were driving toward the city to go get the car, and we could see the smoke from all these fires going on. And it was, we were still a few blocks away from the actual fires and all of that stuff, but we saw it, and that was really hard to see because it was my city burning from the people in my state. So that was kind of difficult too. But it was encouraging to see how the community stepped up. We don't have pictures of it here, but like across the street they were doing like a food drive, and all of these community people had come together from different places to help bless the people in the neighborhood and just try to repair some of those really broken relationships from that time.
Yep. So if you ever come here, I would recommend going to Cup Foods and just seeing the area because it's history. It was all over the news around the whole world what had happened, and to go there and to be able to see and to kind of learn about what happened and how it really affected the entire world in ways nobody imagined.
I have some more missionary story for us today about John. Let's see if we get to the right page. Here we go. So, John made a big life decision last time, and that was to trust Jesus Christ as his Savior. And he was really now a child of God. He was part of God's family, but he was a young child. That meant he didn't really know all that much about God. He had been to Sunday school back when he was a kid, but he really didn't know a lot about God. Well, at Christmas time, the college students came back to the area, and they were all on Christmas break, and one of the girls was talking about how she was going to a Christian college, a Bible college. And John was like, there's such a thing like that a college where you just learn about the Bible and about God? And he thought that was really cool. So then he applied to the Bible college that she was at, and he got accepted 2 weeks later, and they said that they would help him pay for his schooling with a working scholarship. So he sold his car for about $350, which today would be about $3,000, and he used that to pay for his schooling so he could go learn more about God. And it didn't take him too long to figure out two things: that this wasn't just a Bible college, it was a college that trained missionaries. And he also began to notice a girl who was sitting a couple rows behind him. She had dark hair and her name was Lois. So he began to notice those two things, and he really wanted to get a chance to talk to Lois and get to know her. Well, all the students had to do some sort of like Christian service or some sort of ministry while they were training at this school. And so sometimes it was like visiting sick people in your church or helping out with different ministries, or John's favorite thing, which was going into schools and being able to teach them the good news of the gospel. And he got to teach Bible lessons right in these schools. And many times they had special speakers come to his college, and they would talk about how these students needed to give their lives to Christ, that they needed to follow and do whatever God wanted them to do with their life. And so one of those meetings, John went forward and he told God, I want you to use me however you want. I don't know what country you want me to go to. I don't know how you want me to serve, but God, I'm ready to do whatever you would like me to do. So he began to try to watch for things that he felt like God was calling him to do, and he began to pray with some different groups about Asia. And then as he was praying about Asia, God really brought to mind the country of South Korea. Now, Korea was really getting over a big war that they had that had split the country, and he really was feeling bad for the people in Korea, and he was especially feeling bad for the children because they were probably stuck in the middle of all this war, and they weren't getting to go to school, they weren't getting to be with their friends, and they especially weren't getting to know the good news of Jesus Christ. So he began to pray about whether God would want him to go to South Korea or not. And at the same time, he was praying about asking Lois a question. And he had a big question for her, 2 big questions for her. Will you marry me? And will you go to South Korea with me? And you're going to have to come back next time to see what her answers were to those 2 big questions.
Those are 2 big questions.
Yes.
Wow. Well, we are going to give you another update on
Somebody we know really well.
Mm-hmm.
My parents.
Yeah.
David and Gloria Ann Levy. They are missionaries to the United States in the sense that they are wanting to work with pastors to train them to be able to train their people to share the good news of the gospel. So we send lots of missionaries to other places around the world, but we have a lot of needs right here in the United States. So my parents are trying to help with that from right here, starting in Pennsylvania where they live, and then across the states as they travel.
Mm-hmm. So we asked them what their current support level is, and they are at 75% and trusting the Lord to provide the remaining 25%. So that's good.
We asked them how many states they visited this year, and they've been to Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Iowa, Indiana, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arkansas, and Florida. So
Wow.
that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different states.
All through the South and East and coming into the Midwest.
And we asked them what are some highlights from the spring, and they've had the opportunity to do some training offsite in other states, and then also at the home office in Pennsylvania. It's really exciting for them to see people who want to grow and reaching out to people who are lost. And Dave was able to train 60 pastors at the Pastor's Toolbox at Camp Chautauqua. And they got to stop by and see the Ark Encounter.
Yes.
And it was a blessing for them to see the replica of the art, and they definitely recommend people to take a visit there. We do too.
They have enjoyed meeting new people, other believers, as they have gone from church to church and done various trainings. They often go to churches as strangers and leave as friends. They love hearing stories from people of how they are doing the chronological Bible study, the story of hope with unbelievers or new believers.
And when they travel, they especially love when their trips take them by family, like when they got to be here when baby Jaden came. And that was definitely the highlight of their spring.
Alyssa likes snacks, so what did you ask them about snacks?
What were their favorite road trip snacks or foods? And they said popcorn, trail mix, crackers, and sometimes Twizzlers.
And I know they also like to stop and get coffee too. Yucky coffee.
So while they're spending lots of time in the car together, they like to keep track of the different states from all the different license plates, and they have had all the way up to 46 states. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's almost all of them.
Especially when one of them is Hawaii and Alaska. So that means there's only 2. Wow. Impressive. They like to listen to books. They like to honk and wave as they enter a new state, and they like to stop at Sam's Club for refueling, bathroom breaks, walking, and sometimes free snacks.
I always like snacks. I asked them how have gas prices impacted their expenses or their support, and they said it's definitely added a lot of expenses as they fill up their gas tank, which makes sense.
Probably almost twice as much now compared to a year ago. Whew. We asked how we can pray for them, and they said pray that they will be able to encourage pastors and churches to have a passion for seeing lost people, that need to be introduced to Jesus. And also pray for additional financial and prayer support.
And for health and safety as they train in these churches and as they travel around, and that they would have a fruitful ministry in the lives of the people who have taken their training or the pastors that they're coaching. They're pretty excited too because there's a new product coming out for kids. That's the Roots of Faith Middle School. It's in the editing process, as well as something called the Adventures in the Roots of Faith for elementary children. And both are going to cover 24 major eras in the Bible, 12 in the Old Testament, 12 in the New. And it's going to be a fun, interactive study that covers 100 Bible events.
Wow.
That does sound fun.
Sounds like something we might have to use at our church.
Yep.
So hopefully they get it done quick. So that is David and Glorianne Levy. We don't call them that.
Mom and Dad.
We call them Mom and Dad. But that is what is going on in their life right now. Some really neat things, and it's always fun to have a small part of it ourselves and to hear also what God is doing when we're not around.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
So you can pray for them as they work on some of those different projects, and that they would be able to keep raising their support too, especially with the cost of everything going on.
Yeah.
Make sure you come back next week and get to learn some more about our missionary story, somebody else around the world, find our hidden object,
And here's some more about Minnesota.
Bye.
Bye.